They told Hale Rios the creature in Cell 9 was not a person. They told him she was a weapon, a curse, a mistake the universe wanted buried. They also told him one more thing: don't feed her. So Hale fed her anyway. And the moment she tasted human kindness, the entire station's future began to break. Hale worked on Kestrel Station, a cold metal city floating above a dead moon. It belonged to the Sarek Directorate, an alien empire that collected worlds like trophies and people like tools. Hale was not a soldier. He was not a hero. He was a contracted maintenance tech, which meant he fixed things until they stopped breaking, or until he did. The Sarek loved rules. They loved control. They loved cages most of all. Hale's job started simple: patch cracks, seal pipes, keep air flowing. But on his third week, a supervisor drone with a bright, polite voice gave him a new assignment. Restricted wing. Nutrient delivery. Cell 9. Hale stopped walking. Everyone on Kestrel Station knew about restricted. Not from official announcements, those didn't exist, but from rumors, missing workers, and locked doors that smelled like fear. He tried to refuse. The drone simply repeated his name and said, "Compliance required." The Sarek didn't ask twice. The restricted wing was darker than the rest of the station. The lights flickered like they were tired. The walls were thicker, layered with alloys Hale couldn't name. Some doors had claw marks. Others had dents like something had tried to punch its way out. At the supply counter, a human woman named Myra Juno slid him a cart of sealed trays. "Cell 9, she said without looking up. Hale stared at the label. Nutrient paste. Minimum sustenance. "That's it?" he asked. Myra's eyes lifted for half a second. "That's what they want her to get." "Why?" Myra leaned closer. Her voice dropped. "Because if she gets strong, they lose sleep. And the Sarek hate losing sleep." Hale pushed the cart down the hall. The air grew colder. His breath started to show. The floor vibrated faintly, like a deep engine was running somewhere below. Then he reached Cell 9. The door was huge, built for something big. Warning symbols covered it in layers, different languages, different empires, same message. Do not engage. Do not approach. Do not feed without authorization. Hale swallowed and pressed his hand to the scanner. The locks cycled one by one. The final seal released with a hiss that sounded too much like a sigh. Inside was not a normal cell. The walls curved inward like a bowl. A thin layer of glowing moss clung to the surface, pulsing in slow waves as if it were alive. Above, the ceiling was lost in shadow. And in the center, chained inside a gravity cage, sat the giant. She was massive, taller than a doorway even while sitting. Her skin shimmered like dark metal under starlight, marked with faint lines that looked like cracks in glass. Long pale hair drifted as if underwater. A collar ringed her neck, connected to thick cables that ran into the floor. Her eyes opened. They were not wild. Not mindless. Not animal. They were angry, but also tired. Hale's heart hammered. He took a slow step forward, then stopped at the edge of a faint circular line on the floor. He guessed it was the gravity field boundary. He placed the trays on the ground and slid them forward with his boot. "I brought food," he said, voice rough. "Not good food, but food." She didn't move. Hale tried again, softer. "I'm not here to hurt you." Her gaze stayed locked on him. It felt like standing under a storm cloud. One tray had a cracked seal. Paste leaked onto the floor. Hale cursed under his breath, knelt, and wiped it up with a cloth from his pocket. He didn't think. He just cleaned. Then the giant spoke. Her voice was deep, calm, and terrifying, not because it was loud, but because it was controlled. "You clean my floor." Hale froze. Slowly, he looked up. "Yeah," he said. "I spilled it. That's on me." A long pause. No one had prepared him for this moment. For the fact that the monster talked like a person. "You say, it is on you," she said. "Why?" Hale exhaled. "Because I made the mess." The giant's eyes narrowed slightly, studying his face like she was reading something invisible. Others come, she said. They throw food. They mock. They fear. They do not look at me. They look at the cage. Hale swallowed. Then they're idiots. Her lips twitched, almost a smile, but it didn't fully arrive. Human, she said. What is your name? Hale. Hale Rios. She repeated it slowly, like tasting the sound. Hale. Then, after another pause, she spoke her own. I am Sorin. The name sat heavy in the air. Hale nodded. Nice to meet you, Sorin. Her eyes widened a fraction, as if the phrase itself shocked her. You speak like we are equal. Hale shrugged, trying to pretend he wasn't shaking. You talk. You think. You're trapped. Sounds like a person to me. Sorin stared at him for a long time. Then she looked down at the trays. Her hands, huge, scarred, chained, moved slowly toward the food. She didn't grab like an animal. She opened the seal carefully. She ate one bite. Her eyes shut for a second. Not in pleasure. In memory. This is not food, she said. Hale almost laughed. Yeah, I know. It's sadness in paste form. For the first time, her expression shifted into something close to amusement. Then Hale did something reckless. Something human. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wrapped item. A crushed, smuggled luxury from the station's black market. A honey cocoa bar. He stepped forward, stopped at the boundary line, and held it out. I don't know if your species can eat this, he said. But, it's sweet. It's human. Sorin's gaze flicked from the bar to Hale's face. You offer gift, she said quietly. Yeah. Her hand rose slowly. The gravity field crackled faintly as her fingers approached the boundary. For a moment Hale thought the system would shock her. It didn't. Her fingertips touched the wrapper. She took the bar with impossible gentleness. She unwrapped it. Bit. And then the impossible happened. Her eyes changed, not color, but feeling. The anger didn't disappear. The pain didn't vanish. But a crack opened in the wall she had built inside herself. Sweet, she whispered, like the word hurt. Hale felt his throat tighten. How long have you been here? Sorin stared at the bar, then back at him. Long, she said. Long enough to forget. Behind Hale, somewhere in the hallway, a faint alarm chirped, barely audible. Not station-wide. Local. A timer. Hale stood quickly. I have to go before they notice I stayed too long. Sorin's gaze followed him. Her voice softened. Hale. He paused at the door. Why do you feed me? She asked. You are small. You are fragile. You cannot win. Hale looked back at her. I'm human, he said. We feed the impossible all the time. He left before his courage could die. Outside the cell, the corridor felt colder than before. Like the station itself had noticed the change. Myra was waiting near the supply counter. You're alive, she said. Hale swallowed. Yeah. Myra studied him carefully. Did she speak? Hale hesitated. Then nodded. Myra's face tightened. Then the Sarek will notice soon. Hale gripped the cart handle harder. Because for the first time since arriving on Kestrel Station, he didn't just feel fear. He felt purpose. And somewhere behind layers of steel and gravity fields, the Giantess in Cell 9 held a taste of sweetness in her mouth, and remembered what it meant to be treated like a person. Hale returned the next day with more food trays, and one extra item hidden under the paste, a small packet of dried fruit he'd traded half his wages for. Sorin was already awake. She didn't pretend she wasn't waiting. That hit Hale harder than any threat. He slid the trays forward, then the fruit packet. Her eyes narrowed. This is not from them. No, Hale said. It's from me. Sorin opened it carefully. Smelled it. Took a piece between two fingers. Ate. Her shoulders loosened a little, as if the station's weight had lifted by 1%. You risk much, she said. Hale sat against the wall outside the boundary line. Yeah. Don't tell anyone. Sorin made a sound that was almost laughter. 4 days. Hale kept coming. Not long, never long enough to trigger heavy alarms, but enough to talk. Enough to remind her she still had a voice. He learned she wasn't Sarek. She wasn't even from a known empire. She was from a species the Directorate called Titan kin. Rare. Powerful. Valuable. He learned the gravity cage didn't just restrain her body. It restrained her mind. It pressed down on her thoughts, slowed her reactions, made her feel like she was drowning while awake. They do this, she said one day, fingers curled around her chains, so I forget myself. Hale's jaw tightened. It's working. Sorin stared at him, then shook her head once. No, she said. Because you remind. That night, the station went into partial lockdown. Not a riot. Not an accident. A controlled lockdown. And the next morning, a new figure entered the restricted wing with a clean uniform and cold eyes. Director Vork. The mind behind Kestrel Station. He met Hale outside Cell 9 as if it was planned. Maintenance Tech Hale Rios, Vork said, voice smooth. You've built a remarkable routine. Hale's blood ran cold. Sir, Vork smiled. It wasn't friendly. It was the smile of someone opening a box to see what screams. I would like you to continue feeding the asset, Vork said. But now you will do more. Hale's hands clenched. Vork leaned in slightly. You will make her trust you, he whispered. Then you will lead her to the edge of obedience. Hale's stomach turned. She's not an asset. Vork's smile widened. Everything is an asset. Even compassion. Behind Vork stood 2 armed drones and a Sarek guard with a shock baton. Vork tapped a wrist screen. A video popped up. Myra Juno, dragged down a corridor, struggling. Then another clip. A young human prisoner Hale had shared food with, pinned to a wall by drones. Vork's voice stayed gentle. If you refuse, the station will conduct experiments. On them. Slowly. Hale felt rage rise like fire. But he also felt something else. A human thing. A plan forming under pressure. He swallowed and forced his face calm. What do you want exactly? Vork's eyes glittered. A demonstration. Buyers arrive soon. They want proof that the Titan kin can be shaped. Hale nodded once, acting defeated. Vork stepped back, pleased. Good. You will be rewarded for obedience. When Vork left, Hale's legs shook. He went to Myra's bunk that night. She was bruised but alive. He whispered, they're using us. Myra wiped blood from her lip. Then used them back. Hale stared at the metal ceiling. Because if the Sarek thought humans were only useful when obedient, they had never met the kind of human who survived by breaking rules. The next day, Hale entered Cell 9 with fruit, paste, and a calm face he did not feel. Sorin noticed instantly. You are not well, she said. Hale tried to lie. Failed. His voice cracked. They know. They are watching. They want me to. Sorin's eyes sharpened. To betray. Hale's shame burned. But Sorin's voice was steady. You think I do not understand cages? I have lived inside them longer than you have lived at all. Hale looked up at her. Then what do we do? Sorin leaned forward as far as her chains allowed. We do what humans do, she said. Hale blinked. What? Sorin's gaze locked onto his like a vow. We turn their trap into a door. Hale began to do what Vork demanded, on the surface. He spoke to Sorin more. He brought better food when possible. He told stories about Earth, rain on rooftops, street music, tea shops, old movies that made people cry. He did it honestly. And that honesty was the first part of the weapon. Because the Sarek understood force. They understood fear. They did not understand a human building trust with nothing but words and small acts. Inside the restricted wing, Vork's cameras watched Hale's visits. His analysts watched Soren's body language. They thought they were watching a tame beast. Hale and Soren were building a code. A pattern of meaning hidden in harmless conversation. Hale started placing items in certain orders. Fruit left, paste right, water center. He'd tap the cart twice when danger was near. He'd hum a simple melody when guards were listening. Soren caught on fast. Her species read patterns like language. Soon, Hale could warn her without words. And Soren, slowly, carefully, tested the gravity cage. Not with brute strength. With patience. She learned how the field pulsed. How often it refreshed. How it reacted to movement, emotion, voice, and heat. One day, Hale smuggled in a broken maintenance sensor the size of a coin. He slid it near the boundary line and whispered, "It measures field shifts." Soren stared at the tiny tool. Then she looked at Hale with something close to respect. "You bring me teeth," she said. Hale grinned. Humans are good at building teeth. Meanwhile, outside restricted, tension grew. Prisoners vanished. Drones patrolled more often. Everyone felt the station tightening like a fist. Myra told Hale the buyers were coming in 4 days. "They want a show," Myra said. "They want her to break something on command." Hale nodded. "Then we give them a show." On the 4th day, Director Vork arrived in person, flanked by guards, engineers, and a translator unit. Hale was forced into Cell 9 with the cart. Soren sat in the center of her gravity cage, chains glinting. Vork spoke loudly. "Titan kin Soren. Display compliance." Soren did not move. Vork's smile thinned. "Human. Encourage her." Hale's mouth went dry. He stepped to the boundary line and spoke clearly. "Soren," he said. "They want you to perform." Soren's eyes met his. Calm. Ready. Hale continued, voice steady. "Do what we practiced." Soren rose. The gravity field pressed down hard, but she moved anyway, slow and controlled. Chains rattled. Cables groaned. Vork's buyers watched through a thick window. Their faces were hidden behind helmets and glowing visors. Soren lifted one arm. The gravity cage sparked. She winced, but did not stop. Then she did something the Sarek did not expect. She didn't attack. She sang. A low tone that vibrated the walls, making dust drift from seams. Hale felt it in his bones. The maintenance sensor coin on the floor began to blink wildly. The gravity field flickered. Vork's eyes narrowed. "Stop that." Soren's voice deepened. The field pulsed, and for a split second, weakened. Hale stepped forward, pretending panic. "Sir, she's destabilizing the containment," he shouted. Vork snapped, "Then fix it." That was the moment. Hale lunged toward the control panel, hands moving fast. To the cameras, it looked like he was trying to stabilize the cage. But Hale wasn't stabilizing anything. He was redirecting power. He'd studied the panel for weeks. Not as a prisoner. As a human technician. He knew every system had shortcuts. Every system had assumptions. And the Sarek assumed humans were too scared to use them. Hale rewired the power cycle to create a 2-second drop, too short for alarms to lock down, too fast for the buyers to notice, but long enough for Soren. Soren moved like lightning. In that brief silence, her chains went slack. The gravity pressure vanished for a heartbeat. Soren snapped the thickest restraint like it was glass. Then the field slammed back on. To the buyers, it looked like an accident. To Vork, it looked like a warning. He stepped back, face tight. "Enough." The buyers murmured. Interested. Excited. They had seen proof of strength. But Hale and Soren had gained something more valuable. They now knew the cage could be broken. And the Sarek still didn't realize they were watching a human build an escape out of nothing but timing, trust, and a maintenance panel. That night, Hale whispered through the boundary line. "Tomorrow." Soren whispered back. "Tomorrow." The next day, the station shook. Not from an explosion. From a command. Emergency sirens screamed. Red lights flooded every corridor. Doors sealed. Drones launched in squads. Myra sprinted to Hale, breathless. They are moving her. Now. Hale's chest tightened. Where? Myra's eyes were hard. Dock Bay 7. The buyers want her off station. Hale felt his plan compress into one sharp line. If Sorin left Kestrel Station in chains, she was gone forever. Hale ran. Restricted wing doors were already closing, but a maintenance crawlspace Myra had shown him weeks ago led to a side access panel. Hale cut power with a tool made from scrap wire and pure stubbornness. Inside Cell 9, Sorin was already standing. Guards swarmed outside the boundary line with shock batons and stun rifles. Vork's voice echoed through a speaker. Sedate her. Sorin's eyes found Hale. He didn't speak. He just raised his hand and tapped his chest twice. The signal. Now. Sorin began to sing again, lower and louder, a tone that made the gravity field tremble. Guards flinched. The drones wobbled. Hale sprinted to the panel and slammed his tool into the wiring harness. The cage flickered. 2 seconds. Sorin ripped her remaining restraints free. 3 seconds. She stepped out of the boundary line like a storm walking into daylight. The guards froze. Sorin didn't kill them. She looked at Hale. Hale, she said, voice steady. Run. Hale ran with her, tiny human legs trying to keep up with a giant who moved like controlled thunder. Doors slammed. Drones rose. But humans were already moving too. Myra had triggered something while Hale was inside restricted, a prison-wide broadcast. Every locked worker. Every frightened prisoner. Every alien forced into service. A single message across every screen. The cages can open. Kestrel Station erupted, not in mindless chaos, but in a sudden sharp wave of choice. Some ran. Some fought. Some helped. Humans formed groups around cut power nodes. They used tools as weapons. They used vents as tunnels. They used knowledge the Sarek never respected. And Sorin was the shield. She blocked drone fire with torn metal doors. She lifted debris to clear paths. She carried wounded prisoners like they were precious. The buyer's ship waited at Dock Bay 7. Vork stood there with a private security unit, face pale with rage. You were supposed to be controlled, he hissed. Hale stepped forward, trembling but upright. You built cages, Hale said. We build solutions. Vork raised a weapon. Sorin stepped between them. Her shadow covered Vork like night. You starved me, she said, voice like a planet shifting. You named me asset. You forgot something. Vork spat. What? Sorin's eyes burned. You forgot humans are contagious. Hale didn't understand, until he felt it. The station's workforce wasn't just rebelling. They were sinking. Sharing paths, tools, codes, ideas. Humans were doing what they did best under pressure. Turning separate minds into one moving machine. Vork fired. Sorin caught the shot in her palm, energy sizzling across her skin, then crushed the weapon into scrap. Hale yanked open the dock controls. The buyer's ship shields began to lower for boarding. Myra shouted, if that ship leaves, we're dead. Hale shouted back, then we don't let it leave. He slammed a lever that made no sense to anyone except a maintenance tech who had spent weeks learning this station's bones. Dock Bay 7's magnetic clamps locked. Hard. The buyer's ship tried to lift. It couldn't. Engines screamed against the clamps. Hale grinned through fear. Welcome to the human part, he said. And then the station shook again, this time from the buyers realizing they had been trapped by the people they thought were livestock. The buyers unleashed their troops, sleek armored aliens with rifles that hummed. Humans responded with something the galaxy never expected. Improvised traps, hacked drones, redirected power grids, and coordinated movement like a swarm of clever insects. Hale climbed onto a control platform above the dock and shouted commands down to human teams. Myra led a squad cutting power to enemy shields. A quiet human medic named Tamsin dragged wounded prisoners into cover while shouting jokes to keep them alive. An elderly alien laborer, forced into service for years, threw a toolkit at a Bayer soldier and screamed, "I choose today." That was the Sarak's real failure. They believed fear was permanent. Humans proved fear could be converted into fuel. Sorin fought like a living wall, but she didn't crush blindly. She protected. She moved with purpose. Hale watched her, stunned. She had been called a monster. Yet the monsters were the ones who built starvation cages. Vork, desperate, activated a failsafe. A station-wide kill switch designed to vent oxygen and wipe evidence. A cold voice announced, "Atmospheric purge in 3 minutes." Myra looked up at Hale, eyes wide. "Can you stop it?" Hale swallowed. The purge system was sealed behind directorate encryption. Alien encryption. But Hale smiled anyway, because humans had a secret weapon. They were raised in a world full of locks. And they learned early that locks were just puzzles with ego. Hale plugged his tool into the main console and began to work. Not by fighting encryption head-on. By tricking it. He created a false maintenance loop. He fed the system its own status reports, mirrored back in a way that made it believe the purge had already happened. The system paused, confused. Hale pushed harder. He overloaded the reporting line with data so fast the Sarak firewall began to choke. The purge timer froze at 7 seconds. Then reset. A single message appeared. Maintenance override accepted. Myra laughed, breathless. "You did it." Hale wiped sweat from his face. "Humans don't beat systems by being stronger. We beat them by being annoying." Below, Sorin faced Vork one last time. Vork backed toward the Bayer ship, snarling. "Your property." Sorin's voice softened, almost sad. "No," she said. "I was hungry. That is all you ever understood." She stepped closer. "And then a human fed me." Vork tried to run. Sorin didn't kill him. She simply lifted him and placed him inside the now empty gravity cage. The field sparked to life again. Vork screamed as the pressure crushed him to his knees. Sorin leaned down, eyes burning. "Now you will learn," she whispered, "what a cage feels like." Hale watched, shaking. Then he looked at the dock. The buyer's ship was still clamped. Human teams flooded it, not to steal, not to slaughter, but to take controls and free whoever was inside. Within minutes, a broadcast hit every screen. Kestrel Station is no longer under directorate control. The remaining Sarak forces fled. The buyers surrendered. And for the first time in a long time, the station felt like it could breathe. Later, when the smoke cleared, Hale stood at an observation window looking at the stars. Sorin stood behind him, still enormous, still dangerous, but now uncaged. She spoke softly. "You changed everything with one feeding." Hale shrugged. "It was just food." Sorin shook her head. "It was not food." She looked at the stars like she was seeing them for the first time. "It was proof," she said, "that humans do not only survive." Hale turned to her. "What do we do now?" Sorin's eyes held something fierce and bright. "Now," she said, "we take this lesson to the galaxy." Hale smiled. Because the galaxy had always asked the wrong question. It asked, "Can humans fight?" Now it would learn the real one. Can humans inspire? And the answer, broadcast from a stolen station, carried by freed prisoners, echoed by an alien giantess who remembered sweetness, was loud enough to shake the stars. Yes.